Yeah, I have three concerns, and if I was to boil down VHA, and by no means am I a executive level SES, healthcare expert, but I am a veteran who uses the VA quite often. Actually, I have an appointment coming up here in less than 2 weeks that I've been waiting for, by the way, and I didn't use community care, so food for thought. But the three issues I see is from the veteran perspective. I think there are a ton of people, and there's no good way to say this. I think there are a ton of people that see community care, the Mission Act, and Complete the Mission Act as a partisan issue, right? They're seeing it through party lines versus a veteran issue. One, in my opinion, I would step back and just remember that veterans issues are bipartisan. And in fact, the second they're not, that's when we have some real issues, because we can't do this every 4 years. Okay. It can't be good 4 years, bad the next. It's got to be consistent. And so that's one issue I see, is a lot of veterans have that bias that's ingrained, and it's natural to do that. But I think that's going to hurt veterans in the long run. The second issue I see is from the VHA side of the house. They're looking at longevity. We're talking about people's pensions and jobs, and we're not just talking about janitors here. We're talking about physicians, psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers, techs, radiology techs, anything that's healthcare related. Those are people's jobs and livelihoods. And so another issue is, okay, well, what's priority? Is it veteran healthcare, or is it pensions and jobs of other people? What is it, right? Because if the VA has one purpose, which is to serve veterans, by the way. So the answer is objectively, it should be veterans. But I think it seems like decision-making on, not letting veterans use community care because you want that number and that dollar figure to go into the VHA side of the house. So then you can tell Congress how important VHA is. That's an issue because you're getting away from veterans. And then the third issue there is, okay, if you do go community care, what does that actually look like? And there's a infrastructure issue, because it's not just hiring a doctor, right? It's salary, it's benefits, it's pensions, it's infrastructure. You have to have a building, right? And I don't know if anyone looks at real estate numbers up where I live in the DC area, but I can tell you right now, in DC, you're paying millions of dollars for a townhome. So I know infrastructure up there is expensive, and all of that costs money. Power, electricity, water, all of those things are factors. And so you look at the cost of community care, it's like, okay, well, dang, it is cheaper, right? It very well might be cheaper. And the main issue is, I think everyone, veterans, policymakers, VHA staff, are putting other factors above veterans to make these decisions. That, in my opinion, is what got us to where we're at right now. What are your thoughts? That's kind of a big burger to take a bite out of, and it's super, I think it's very complex. I definitely don't understand the ins and outs of it, but from a veteran perspective, that's what I see.
I agree with you. I mean, there was some information that we'll call it leaked or was talked about with, I believe it was Sharif Ellenhall at the VA, essentially stating that, do essentially anything you can to keep veterans in the VHA system and not make it easy to get into community care. One of the dirty tricks, in my opinion, to skirt the responsibility to allow for community care, if you couldn't get seen within a certain amount of time frame or a certain distance, was the VA's offering of telehealth. And if they could provide you telehealth, now you don't get community care. Well, we have a telehealth appointment tomorrow. Now you don't get community care. So that's, I think, a dirty trick. There's plenty of veterans that I know that, they're not comfortable with that. They want to go have a face-to-face with a doctor. Mm-hmm. And that's what they expect. And again, if this was a private organization that was functioning as though we had a choice and we were the customer, you could bet your bottom dollar that they would be doing anything they can to satisfy what we want, meet us where we are, do what we are looking for and feel as though we have earned. Now, I agree. The cost of, and I've never ran the numbers, but to me, this is I'm on the same page as you. If you're utilizing community care, you've now negated any sort of HR complaints, worker comp, any sort of retirements, any sort of recruiting efforts, any sort of incentives, any of that. All of that is gone. Not to mention the brick and mortar stuff, but all the other issues that come with running a business that cost money, gone. You have no responsibility. It's done. So it only makes sense. Now, unlike the military, where we, the nation, gets to decide where you're stationed, the VA can't decide where you live, where you reside. So they have to follow you around. If every veteran from California decided that they were going to move to Nebraska, right? And all of a sudden Nebraska becomes the biggest veteran populated state in the nation, the VA would have to close up all their shops in California, go out there, build a bunch of new stuff, and start functioning out there. So it sounds crazy, but that's the reality. We migrate, we move. And since COVID, as I'm coughing and hacking over here, since COVID, it's even become more obvious that people move. Your thoughts, Clay?